Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm Gemma Creagh and I'm chatting with director Edwina Casey about her cinematic interpretation of Peter Maxwell Davies' chamber opera, The Lighthouse. It's about three lighthouse keepers talking about a time where something went horribly wrong. I don't want to give too much away, but it's sort of timely as well because it's about how isolation has driven them mad in a way. Was that all planned? Was that just good luck?
Yeah, I think because so I know Irish National Opera asked me they approached me last February about doing this opera, and I was like, Jesus, pretty close to the bone, you know. I think a lot of people felt pretty mad at that stage. But it's based on a true story, which is kind of the interesting part of it. And I think Maxwell Davies, I think he's dead now, so we have to speculate. But I think he wanted to put forward an idea of what happened as opposed to this is a real thing.
So that's it. Isn't that all kind of everything is an interpretation, really? Yeah. Anything that's not actually the physical event itself is an interpretation, even an edit of it. So sure, yeah, but it's a very beautiful. It's very visually beautiful and stylized. I'm just wondering, what's your approach? So when you were asked to come on board with this, what's your approach to going, okay, we'll shoot this? Do you know kind of immediately the styles and the looks that you want to go for? Do you work with a team to get the aesthetic? What's your process with this?
Oh, thanks for saying it's nice. That's nice to hear. You know, you never quite know until people see it. No, it was like I was really excited by the proposition because they wanted to, obviously because of the context of being COVID and there was no live audiences, they wanted to do something for screen, and they were kind of they do loads of stuff for screen, but they were sort of interested in exploring, something that's maybe a bit more cinematic than say some filmed opera normally is. Like a lot of time opera is shot just multi-camera. And it's all from the auditorium, just pointing at the stage. And personally, I've always been kind of really fascinated by the idea of putting opera on the big screen, because they're all big stories. It's all high stakes, and I think actually there's something kind of interesting about that, because the big screen is similar, So because there was going to be the screen version, and then was going to be a live tour, we needed something that was going to work for everything. Yeah. So originally I thought I was going to do it like really realistic and like basically because we had to build a set, so we were going to build it. And all.
Is that traveling with you? Because it's beautiful. Like I love the kind of striking. It's almost like a fan style thing that changes.
Oh, the light at the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool. That's it, because basically we wanted, so it's like an imitation of a Fresnel lens. We kind of took artistic license with it because we wanted something that was going to be representative, but also could do different things to sort of suit the mood of the opera or whatever. And so we really just kind of, originally I wanted to do it like really realistically and like feel like put the audience as if they're like in the room with the singers. But I realized through a lot of discussion with Bertie Washington, the DOP, and the designer Anne-Marie Woods, that probably wasn't going to work actually, because it's not true to what the opera is. Like the opera is actually like, it's really psychological real, but then there's these massive dream states and they have visions and they have flashbacks, and so it was going to have to be something that was really flexible. So that's kind of how we arrived at the sort of something slightly more abstract. And we were looking at it a lot at like early cinema techniques.
Yes, I was. I had even noted that, where I loved the way the way it opened up. I was like, God, it is like those kind of turn of the century sort of silent films as well. But I mean, it has well, I really needed the subtitles. It has subtitles as well, but even the pacing of it, I was like, it felt like like one of those kind of silent films. And then the title cards So it was really enjoyable as well, because it suits the era so well.
It was kind of like, because we knew that I think with opera you do kind of have to have the text with it, because sometimes they could sing one word for like 30 seconds, so you just sometimes you need that assistance with it, I think. And so we knew we were going to have text on screen, and I just really loved the idea of like trying to create something that's sort of vintage, but also that can sort of be flexible. And so sepia was like a really big thing we were kind of exploring, and backlighting obviously, and we were studying a lot of, like, I was just watching a lot of like The Passion of St. Joan, or Cabinet of Dr. Caligari's Cabinet,
with that kind of dramatic feel, but I love it because it's just that step out of reality, and you feel it as well. Like it's really it's just something it's a real pleasure to watch, especially in this, and it suits their mental state, I suppose.
Yeah, I think because we also kind of felt like, I think what film does really well is kind of sell realism, and I think that was kind of one of the challenges we had to overcome, because opera isn't necessarily realistic. It's like big, brash, heightened. So we kind of just wanted to do something. I think that's why to just do something that was slightly more heightened, kind of felt would sort of fit with both forms, I suppose.
And you're the person definitely to deliver that, because you have your background in theatre and then your filmmaking experience as the Bingham Ray New Talent Award winner.
Oh yeah.
So award-winning filmmaking experience. So it's a good kind of mesh of the two worlds. Mm-hmm. And you're directing the stage run of this as well.
We're in rehearsals at the minute, and so it has like a live tour that goes around Ireland from the 20th of November, so it's kind of it's and it's funny because I'm in rehearsals at the minute, and we're going back through, and it's funny just how you have to adapt some of the scenes. Some things work great on screen, and then other things just don't translate, and so mostly we're not having to change too much, but it's been a really interesting exercise in terms of just how performance changes between the two mediums.
Yes, because definitely that was one I was going to ask, because there were some beautiful subtle moments of emotion caught there that I was like, that are gorgeous to watch on screen, but like definitely if you're sitting in the back row, you're not catching it at all, and I was like, how are they going to do that live? But it was really lovely. Like the performers were amazing. How do you sort of work with your performers? How do you elicit that emotion with them?
I think it was really lucky. The Brenton Ryan, Ben McAteer and John Molloy just were really up for it. I think, because they were really thrown into the deep end, because they've just so much going on between, like, musically, like the music is quite challenging, and then super detailed staging, but then also to have a camera in their face. It was like they were just really up for it. And we filmed over 2 weeks in Dreacht Theatre in Blanchardstown, and we kind of filmed about 10 minutes a day. And I think, funny enough, I think the hardest thing for them was the repetition of filming. They just weren't used to that, just doing it over and over and over again, getting the different angles. I think they found that quite hard to come get their head around a bit. Which I suppose you kind of just don't think about that, when you're,
or you think that's the easiest thing, instead of having to remember everything in one go. Like for me, that would be the mind-blowing thing, is to sit down and do everything live in front of an audience, like continuously.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, like the thought of just kind of putting your balls out there.
I suppose it is getting into the movement of that. And would you have worked with them? I suppose it's funny now doing the rehearsals after the recording as well. Like it is. I suppose it is a different medium.
Yeah, it is, and it's like there's some things. I think there's gains, and then there's also things that you kind of miss. I think, but going between both of them, I think like something I would have loved more is for us to be able to see the sort of the set more, because it's really like the lighting designer Sinead Wallace did a really beautiful job of just really just creating the tone and feel of it.
Yeah, it's stunning. And it's really lovely. And I kind of think one of the things that are lovely to watch as a viewer is the difference in physicality, in the different moods and how they're captured, because it's the same space and you can clearly see it's the same space. And you think on screen, oh, maybe like in a cinema there's so much, or in a theater, live theater, there's so much more selling it and you're physically there. But it was like, actually it really works. Like it looks like it's a completely different room almost in certain moments.
Yeah, I think, and she really, because like effectively it's really just a giant ramp that the singers are on and just light. So it's she's really I think something that was really interesting was just really basic stuff that we realized when we got filming, that we had sort of had plotted out the lighting for the whole show, and then when we pointed the camera at it, we realized that we had to bring all the levels down like by half, just because the cinema cameras are just so much more sensitive. So it was a really weird thing of like looking up at stage and them being almost in darkness, but then on camera they looked nearly blown out of it. So yeah, the things you learn.
Yeah. And was this shot during one of the lockdowns?
Yeah, it was really eerie. Like we were just, there was, I think there was about a crew of 20 just in the theater for 2 weeks. We rehearsed for 3 weeks before that as well. So yeah, it was kind of daunting, the idea of having to do 10 minutes a day, just because I just wasn't used to that sort of working at that pace, even with 3 weeks rehearsal actually. But yeah, no, we got there, I think.
Yeah, I suppose that's a short a day, really. Got no pressure.
But then also we had COVID to deal with as well. So really we were only filming, we were only filming like 80% at the time, because you've all the protocols you got to do and to be safe.
And just with this, the music and the sound mix is so important, and you really get that sense of like how do you achieve that? Like, are they singing? Like, do you do a master of them singing live on stage, or are they lip syncing to it? Or
it was funny because you obviously would love to have the orchestra, the singers, the camera team in the room all together, but it just wasn't. We couldn't really done it because of COVID, but actually, it just wouldn't have been feasible in terms of filming because of the issue of repetition. People would get very tired very quickly and very hoarse, and it just wouldn't work for their voices. So everything was recorded in Windmill Lane, and then we basically had a track that we worked to, a bit like a music video, I suppose. But the lip syncing thing was such a, you had to get it on the second, otherwise you couldn't use it or use a take or whatever. But like interestingly, we got, I think one of the most fun parts of it in the post-production side was when we made the sound mix. I had sort of planned to put in a whole sound design over the music, but actually Maxwell Davies' opera is so like, he's so precisely thought about every single note and what it's doing that we didn't need a sound design, because he has like flutes that are like seagulls, or like, he's got these big drum swells that sound like waves. It's really, he was kind of a genius, and really just, yeah, it's a really fascinating opera actually.
And is this your first sort of doing of this opera? Like, is this your first kind of really working this material?
This opera, yeah. I'd heard of it before, but I wasn't that familiar with it. And actually, I hadn't done a lot of contemporary opera, because it's really contemporary opera is a really kind of specific thing. It's really kind of an acquired taste. But so it was my first time doing that, and actually it was, I found I really immersed myself in it. Actually, is really it's a different kind of appreciation, I think, but it's really sort of, yeah, I don't know. I think he's a really evocative composer, actually.
Working with the material again so much and for such a long period of time, how do you stay enamored with it? Like, what do you do? I'm sure you see new things in it all the time as well as you're going through it, but like, how do you kind of keep it fresh for yourself?
It's funny because I started reading it at the beginning of February and was basically reading it every day until we finished, until we delivered the DCP, which was in June.
That's not a lot of time.
No.
That is not a lot of time. Oh my God.
We edited the whole thing in 2 weeks. And Gráinne Gavigan did the edit, and she was just phenomenal. Like, she just was so fast. Like, she did an assembly. She had a full assembly in like a week.
Because it's so polished. Like, it's so polished and it feels so precise. That is just astonishing.
Thanks. Yeah, we like I shot listed within an inch of my life, I think, as well. So that kind of definitely helped the process.
I suppose when things are in lockdown, that's the time to be doing stuff because nothing is happening.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it was literally like I kind of dropped, like, basically, I wanted to do it fast, so I knew that I was going to have to basically just put most things on hold and just kind of go for it. And it's a funny thing, like maybe it's like Stockholm syndrome, I don't know, but like I never really got sick of the opera. I really just, I think because it's so layered, and like it's almost like the first time you listen to it, it almost doesn't do it justice, because it's actually, every time I go back to it, I go, oh my God, there's this whole other instrumental section that is just like, oh, that's, I don't know. I'm not the music aficionado, so.
So you'll be after this. And do you, like, how do you kind of go about, so you went into rehearsals. Is this a production that was sort of in the works beforehand? Did you come onto it, or did you cast it and do everything from scratch from the beginning?
Because it's all the roles, you have to, you need a tenor for that role, you need a bass or a baritone for that role. So I&O would cast it themselves. Like we did, like we'd have conversations, but it's really about sort of what they think will also, because at the end of the day, it's really about the music. And so it's really that those voices are all going to work together. And and then the conductor obviously is across that as well. So we had an Italian conductor called Nil Venditti, who didn't know the opera at all and just kind of came over and did it. And she was great energy in the room, I think.
And would you be there for all the recording sessions and everything as well, or would you get a sort of final thing at the end of the day when they were doing the?
It's a funny thing, because like when you're in rehearsals, the conductor and the director sit side by side and they're there for the whole, they're usually together for the whole thing, but usually, like, mostly the director's running that floor. So when there's music rehearsals, the conductor's running it. So you kind of stay out of each other's way a bit, and sort of like, hopefully if you get along, you can talk and debate things. And luckily we did get along, so that was great. But so I would have gone into the recording sessions and stuff, but it really would have just been like, I'd only really been there if they sort of had a question about intention or something like that, because it's really just for them about getting the music. And because the music is largely atonal, it's really about sort of just like ensuring that they're doing that right, basically.
So that's interesting, because it's good to know, because obviously that's it's a whole different world to know, like, this is the protocol where you're like, this is your lane, you do not cross it. Like in film, it's like you were the auteur, but I do think definitely in theatre it's more a writer slash then the director that has a different, like they have very, very different roles as well.
100%. And you can have, and one of the, like, I find there's often fear every time I start, anytime I've started an opera production, that the conductor might have very different attitudes about how fast something should be played, because if they decide that a section of music is to go at twice the speed, then the staging has to go at twice the speed. So there's always those kind of hairy moments where, you know, you're going, maybe can we just allow for that person to cross the stage?
No, this is how I hear it. The creative differences, the different kinds. There's just different, But I'd say it sounds like a kind of an intense thing as well, especially if it's all like done that quickly. So like an opera of that kind, I presume there's more. Is that the usual thing, like for things to move that quickly?
No, it's like usually that people would have longer lead-in times, and luckily, so the designer Anne-Marie Woods, I would have worked with a lot before on previous productions, so we were able to sort of cut to it very fast about sort of what we liked, what we didn't like, and general ambitions. And I think as well, a lot of our concept was also determined by that it's a show that has to fit in a lot of venues, so it kind of has to be sort of flexible and that kind of thing. Having said that, our set is massive.
It's pretty cool. And I was just, this is another thing where I just wouldn't know, is how much does a venue affect, and the space within that venue and the physical space, the lighting, the rig up, how much would that affect a show?
So it's going to 7 venues and it's doing 10 performances around Ireland over a few weeks. And some of the venues really do vary. So, you know, a lot of the production meetings we're having at the minute is, you know, how are we going to do that section of staging? You know, we have a moment where the giant Fresnel lens sort of floats in from the ceiling, but some venues you can't do that. So, you know, then you're just trying to find creative solutions for all these things. So it's, you know, it's what keeps it interesting, I suppose. You're just coming together and trying to, you know, problem solve, I suppose, while also keeping the creative
and managing everything and organizing everything and making sure the visuals are okay, and then doing marketing. No pressure.
It keeps you on your toes.
So you've been sort of you've come from the theatre world and then moved into the film world. You've done so well now, and Algorithm has done it so well, and you're working on so many cool projects in film. And then this obviously is kind of like a hybrid, so it's really suited. Do you ever go, I'd love to just go back to doing theatre, and this has really whet my appetite? Like, do you sway between the two, or is it just like my love is this? Like, how does it work?
No, I honestly, I don't miss theatre. I honestly don't, and I'd put opera in a different category. I think opera's a sort of, actually, I think opera's really closer to film than theatre is actually.
Interesting. Elaborate, actually, before we move on. That's really interesting.
I think it's that I think theatre is very writer focused, very performance creator focused, whereas opera, you know, you're very determined by the score, and I think cinema, you're very determined by, you know, similar things. It has to be a certain way, and like there's a lot of like, as from a director point of view, like you do kind of have to storyboard operas, you know, you do have a kind of a shot list, and you know, before you start it, I would stage the whole opera before I commence. A bit like with film, I would shot list everything, and so I think that's kind of where I sort of find the connection with it. But I mean, I really would love to explore this again at some point, like just this, maybe with a different, maybe more like a classical opera, just to sort of see what that would be like. I think you definitely would have to adapt it. I don't think you could do like a direct recreation of the opera, but I think there's something in it as a medium, and I think there's unexplored potential with it. So yeah.
So this is your first sort of time doing something of this style and this nature. What have you learned much? And also, I think doing it during COVID, it's a special sort of added pressure and stress and cost to everything. So I'm just wondering, have you learned much, or what would be your?
Yeah, I think just like definitely one of the things is like being super organized and doing your homework. Just kind of, because I think if we hadn't planned exactly how we were going to approach the shooting, I think we would have been really goosed. And so just, I think it was really nice just to actually get into almost like a mini studio context, because you're basically just like, you're shooting on a set, and you're not really moving for the day. So that was really great, because it just I think it was an ambitious piece.
Have you had a cast and crew screening yet?
No, we haven't been able to do that because of COVID, really. Like the screenings, so the screen version did a tour around Lighthouse around Ireland during the summer, which was really cool. They got like an inflatable screen and sound system, and they just put it up next to lighthouses in different places, and like it played in the Aran Islands and all this kind of cool stuff.
It's fabulous.
I'm really excited to see it in the cinema, though, I have to say, like, just to sort of, I think, like to definitely see the sort of visuals and the performance at that scale, but also I think just to hear the sort of orchestral music, like to hear that part of it in a cinema context, I think could be really, really interesting
and powerful, like, as well. Again, like that sounds system, that sound mix is just really beautiful.
They really like it was done by Ergodos and then finished in Egg, and they really it's really sort of, it's such a key part of it, I think, you know. I mean, being an opera, I suppose.
So we can see it. And just one question, what are you working on? Anything now going forward? Are you doing something completely different? So you're going to have your 10 performances after the 20th. Do you have your 2022 slate lined up? Or are you like, I'm going to take a break now for ever?
Yeah, I'm actually writing 2 films at the minute, so it's a bit full on at the minute, to be honest. I'm supposed to be getting married, so
congratulations. Oh my god,
having a wedding is almost like a production in itself.
So yeah, so many moving parts. Even like the call sheet said to be there at 12. I tell you,
that priest better be there. So no, I'm writing at the minute. I'm actually just back from Torino Film Lab. I was over in Madrid, just doing early development on a project that I'm hopefully going to do as a European co-production. So yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to us and chat about that now soon. We have a bit more time than from February till June. But okay, so just everyone can see it. It will be in cinemas on one night only, from Tuesday the 16th of November. So make sure to get your ticket in for this. It's a visual treat, and it's performed so well and shot so beautifully, and it'll be something, again, like I think the big screen and a really fabulous sound system will really do it justice. So I think there's plenty to see. And then if anyone wants to see the live show, it's on a nationwide tour from the 20th of November. So thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks, Gemma. Thanks, Amelia. Thanks, Film Ireland.